Welcome to Healthy Living, reaching you from nation's capital Abuja. I am Olamide Al-Hassan. Now, in the concerning developments, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has officially confirmed the case of anthrax disease in the mixed livestock farm located in Niger State, Nigeria. This marks the first reported animal case in Nigeria since the West African outbreak began in Ghana in June 2023. In a statement made available to Kaftan TV, the discovery came after the sudden deaths of livestock on the farm were reported on July 13, 2023, resulting in a total of 8 fatalities. The diseased animals were observed to be bleeding from external orifices without blood clotting, a common symptom of anthrax. Today on the program, pharmacist Rotimi Tolulope Alamojin joins us to shed light on anthrax disease to keep us safe and informed. You're welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine.
It's so good to have you. Apologies, the last time we had, the Zoom meeting, we had lagging network issues.
Yeah.
I'm happy you're here today again.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here too.
All right, we've been hearing about anthrax and the current menace it has caused in the society.
Yeah.
So, what is anthrax really?
Okay. In layman's language, anthrax is a bacterial disease. It's just like almost every other disease we get. Something similar to the diphtheria we talked about the last time. It's also a bacterial disease, which also has its way of transmission or spread in almost the same pattern. This particular period that we find ourselves, rainy seasons, it's a period where flu kinds of rains the more. So you are bound to have more of these diseases that comes with that are being spread through spores, through droplets, and the rest. So, anthrax is something similar to what diphtheria also does. Now, the only difference with anthrax and diphtheria now is diphtheria is a disease that affects human, while anthrax is a disease that is actually attributed to animals, and that's why they call it a zoonotic disease. But even that it's an animal disease doesn't mean that humans cannot be infected by it. Yeah, it just means that you can only get it from animals. It cannot be transmitted from man to man.
To man, yes.
It can only be gotten from animals to man. That's the only difference. That's where it's a little bit milder in one sense.
Oh.
In the other sense, it's more dangerous because in our part of the world we are people that live more on meat. We feed more on meat life. Almost everything we do in our households, we love to eat meat.
And some of us love to keep animals as pets.
In our joints, we do meat a lot. So this disease can also be passed through that means eating improperly cooked meat or meats that are already infected with this anthrax disease. So you can also get it via that means, apart from just the physical touch of animals that are also infected. That's the part where it now becomes a little bit more tricky, because you can't really tell. In our part of the world, everybody is trying to. People don't think safety. People just think profit. That's the problem we have in our part of the world. And that is where it becomes very tricky, because a farmer would see his livestock dying. He knows it's from a disease. He might not even know what the disease is, but he knows this animal is not, the death is not natural. Something is wrong somewhere. But before the animal would die, as he sees the animal shaking head, or he's going fever, or something is happening, he prefers to take knife and kills the animal.
That's what we often do now. I think I saw a report that also says that we should be wary of eating or killing sick animals for consumption.
Exactly.
But it's the normal thing that people do, especially chickens. Like once your chicken is already bending neck one side, cut off.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's dangerous, especially in periods like this where we know there are already outbreaks in countries nearby or places nearby. We need to be more careful. It's just the same thing with what we were discussing in diphtheria. Knowing that the disease is out there, it gives you extra push to be extra careful. But what you eat, where you go, the things you do, the places you get your foodstuffs from, the places you get your meats from, it just gives you an extra push to be able to be extra careful in taking extra measures to make sure you are well protected and that of your family too. Because these diseases, yes, they are bacteria, yes, they can be mild, but it can also be very deadly. because they have different types, they have different places they infect, and once the places they infect, the severity comes with the places they infect, just like diphtheria. If it affects your lungs, it affects your breathing, and once it affects your breathing, you are already close to death if care is not properly taken or the proper measures are not taken. Same thing with anthrax. It has about 4 different types that can affect different regions of your body, and once, depending on the level of the place it infects, also determines the severity of the disease. That is why you see the reports that was shared in Niger State about the disease. The symptoms they saw was oozing of blood, and then the animals dying and all that. Same thing can happen in man, if infected, depending on the site of infection
and the type.
Yeah.
All right, before we talk about the type, you mentioned something. You said because it's raining, there are lots of flu going around. Is it that this anthrax now is season based, that maybe when we're off this season we could just then sleep well and forget about anthrax?
We can't really say it's season based, but the reason flu is part of it, or because it's the mode of transmission, it helps it to transmit faster. It helps you to move, to be able to get infected faster with the period or the season that is at play at that particular period. And the worst part of it is when it's this period that we have now during the rainy season and the cold season per se, it is very difficult to actually differentiate.
Wow.
Because one of the symptoms you have from some of these diphtheria, the anthrax, one of the symptoms you have is fever. You have sore throats, you have flu, you have cold. It's similar to what you would have normally, what we call allergic reactions.
Of course.
So people might naturally not really take it serious. Just go to the pharmacy, get an anti-allergy drug, and then they feel they will be better, not taking it serious. And in the process, they keep passing these things around. If you had like diphtheria that can be passed from man to man, you keep passing these things around, not knowing that you're already a carrier. You understand? So it makes it much difficult. When it comes up this period, these seasons, it makes it more difficult because you can't easily differentiate except a proper test has been done in the hospital. But a lot of us, we know in our part of the world, we resort to self-medication most times. So we find it very difficult to go to the hospital. We look at the money we are going to spend and all that. But in advanced countries, why these things are well controlled in advanced countries, because they take proper care of their health. The moment you see yourself experience, you can't even go to the pharmacy and say you want to self-medicate. They will ask you for your doctor's prescription. So
won't it also be the fault of the pharmacists that also issue out drugs to us so long as we've brought our money? Yes,
it's their fault, one, and it's also not their fault, because for every region, for every place, for every country, we treat based on, we call it systematic treatment. Now, there are treatments that you can treat a patient based on symptoms. It's just like someone comes to the pharmacy and explains his or her condition or symptoms that the person is experiencing. As a pharmacist, you can easily deduce based on systemic symptoms that the person is having, what the person is having, physical symptoms. You can easily deduce, okay, this symptoms this person is having is related to this particular disease condition, and you can also treat. What I'm saying is the area, just like unlike advanced countries now, where malaria has been taken care of to say a very good level. Now, if somebody coming down with symptoms related to malaria, it is evident that you would need to do a further test to be sure, because we know that in this part of our world, we have already eradicated malaria. So if somebody is coming down with malaria, you need to know what symptoms that is related to malaria. You need to know what is actually wrong, whether it's malaria or it's something different. So you will definitely be forced to run a test or go to the hospital and all that. But in our area environment where we know we are endemic for these disease conditions, we are in sub-Saharan Africa here. It's our more like, if you do a test, if you do treatment now, and you still go back to do a test, you still see a +1 of malaria. So telling the patient to go back to run a test over and over. Some people treat malaria like twice a month, running a test and running a test over and over again. We look at the economic side of the patient too. sometimes when you're treating, definitely you have to look at the economic side too. So
I'm beginning to think there's something called resistant malaria, but
yes, there is.
I think we're going to be having that discussion in another time. Now, please walk us through the types of anthrax you were talking about.
Okay, we have basically 4 types.
Okay.
We have the one we call the cutaneous that affects the skin. Now, that one is the one you can easily detect and easily differentiate that, okay, this person might be having anthrax because it's a physical manifestation.
Oh.
Yes, so if a person is infected with anthrax on the skin, the first symptoms you see is it definitely comes down with a sore.
Oh.
Like a wound on the person's hand, and then you notice that the middle of the wound is kind of blackish.
Okay.
Yes, there's a black patch in the center of the wound. So seeing that physical manifestation, it's easy to actually, your mind, for a physician or whoever is treating the person, seeing that, the first thing that comes to your mind, this is not just a regular sore or a regular injury that this person is having. There's something else attached to that might be the cause of this, so might be forced to run for that test and all that. But apart from that, the other ones are a little bit tricky. Okay. Because the symptoms are synonymous with other disease conditions, so you might be forced to think they are having other things and not anthrax. The other one is respiratory, the one that affects the respiratory tract of the patient.
Oh,
yes.
So there's shortness of breath too.
Exactly. Wow. Just like what diphtheria does too.
Diphtheria, so, COVID-19.
Yeah, so it makes it a little bit tricky. Like we were discussing when we had the discussion about diphtheria. It makes it a little bit tricky because the person definitely just comes down with the normal sore throats, the pains, the shortness of breath. As the bacterial load is increasing, you see the person expressing shortness of breath. And then when it gets worse is when you see the person starts oozing blood and all that. Can be a fatality, can result in death too. And that's why I said, yes, these things they look mild, but if not properly taken care of, can actually be fatal. And so we have to also be very careful. Then we also have the one that affects the digestive system. Now, you just notice, that's why you see some persons start stooling blood.
Wow.
Yes. So stooling blood can be, some people can start thinking it's bile, can start thinking it's something else, you understand? So these symptoms are a little bit
relative to other things.
So you have to be, at this period, that's why I said when we were talking about the diphtheria, that was advising that you need to be very careful. Once we hear that there are outbreaks like this, let's take extra measures. When you're seeing symptoms that are related, or you're seeing symptoms that you notice that these symptoms are lagging, they are taking their time longer than they should resolve themselves, the best next line of action is to go to the hospital and get properly tested for these things. Now, the other part, the last type of anthrax we also have is what we call the injection anthrax. Now, that injection one is usually it's rare, but it's usually for those that that take injections, heroin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so those are people that actually are in that class of, and that one it's more like a combination of the other ones.
Okay.
So it's
that
more.
Means it's deadlier.
Yes, it's deadlier, exactly, because it's going straight into your system. So it's much deadlier than the rest. So basically, and the symptoms are just a combination of the other 3, or a combination of the digestive and the respiratory tract infection on. So it's a little bit more deadly and more fatal than the rest. But the symptoms are basically almost the same thing. So
okay, so what are the symptoms that we have to look out for that to show that, okay, maybe someone has anthrax, or sometimes our animals could, have
basically, like
anthrax.
I said, most of the symptoms you get are still the flu. You have issues breathing for humans. Same thing with animals. Yes, the symptoms are similar with that of animals too. You notice that the animals are losing blood. They are bringing out blood, or they are stooling blood. Sometimes you might see your animal stooling blood and you think it's just the animal too is having jedi. It's not having jedi. At this period that we are, we have to be very careful when animals are coming down with these symptoms. Like I said, the one on the skin, you notice that there's a little bit of the sore is not healing up, and then in the middle of it you have a black patch in the center of it. And then the normal flu symptoms, sore throat, painful throat, having issues breathing, and then when it gets more severe, you see issues with losing blood, whether from the nose or from the mouth, or stooling blood, or just find yourself consistent stomach pain. You've taken medication, it's not going, and all that. So those are the regular symptoms you would see. So if you notice any of these symptoms are being persistent, like you saw them 1 week, 2, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 1 week, they're not going, and you've taken maybe 1 or 2 first line treatments for these medications, and you're not getting for this disease, and you're not getting any results, I would strongly advise you go to the hospital to get treated. And then
all right. What baffles me now is these symptoms you've just described, and if this disease is mostly found in animals, I'm beginning to wonder how humans can actually contract it from animals, because we want to be careful and, you know, stay away from some animals that are sick and all of that. Because I'm beginning to think, if it's like a flu, will we find them coughing and then pick it from them, or how do humans begin to contract this if it's actually something that humans can actually contract from animals?
Okay, mostly humans contract it from touch.
Okay.
Because the animals that actually carry these diseases, this anthrax disease, is actually animals with fur.
Oh, like your
dog?
Skin.
Yeah, basically cattle, goats, cows. Basically those class of animals are the ones that actually carry this disease. So like I said, the most common one you would see is the skin one, because that's the first contact you have with these animals, and then these bacteria actually produce what we call spores, and that is what they use in their mode of transmission, and that is where humans can also get it via inhalation. The one that affects the respiratory tract, you get it via inhalation. You can inhale these spores that these bacteria produce. So not just from the touch now. You know, most animals, cattle, cows, goats, you see them from time to time, they shake their body.
Yes.
Yeah, so these things they are in the hair. You can easily, so if you are someone, maybe all these Fulani that rears cows and the rest, they are easily prone to these things because they can easily inhale these things. Or you love your pets, you love your animals, you want to direct them into the house, you want to direct them into their pens and all that, and from that, if they have caught some of this, it's not like we bat them every day. It's not like we take care of them the way we should. So because in our part of the world, we don't really care for our animals that much, apart from say we kill them and eat. so it's very difficult to actually keep them as clean or as serene as possible from this disease from other animals and then we find it very difficult to what's the word now, to separate animals when we notice that some of them are falling sick or some of them are showing some signs. We find it very difficult to separate them because it can be cost effective, because we have to start putting them somewhere separate, create a separate environment for them and all that. So we just pack all of them together and then the disease keeps spreading and all that. So that's how humans actually can get this disease from animals.
Okay, but then if these animals are dead, there's a reason I'm asking, because I'm sure viewers at home are beginning to think. So I'm thinking like one of them now. Yeah. So what if in situations where an animal is infected with anthrax and possibly killed and brought to the market for sale, is it possible that because we have touched the meat, we could become infected too?
Yes.
Wow.
That's why I said it's a little bit mild. When we started the talk, I mentioned that it's a little bit mild, but it's also very serious. Mild in the sense that it's not passed from man to man. Serious in the sense that in our part of the world, we are meat lovers. So we deal with meat on a daily basis. And so you can actually get this disease. Even if the animal is dead, you can still get this disease from the dead animals.
Wow.
Yes. So that is why I said we have to be extra careful this period where you buy your meat from, especially where you buy your meat from. Because where you find this disease more rampant now are abattoirs, where they kill these animals. You see, it can even just be one animal that they've killed that is that has these things, and you see how these people pack these animals on top of each other.
Yes.
It spreads.
And then you go to the marketplace, you want to buy your meat, you're picking it with your hands, you're checking.
You don't even know which one is which one, you understand?
Oh.
You don't know where they brought it from, you don't know the route of transportation they've used, you don't know how these things have been kept or preserved or all these things. You don't know how they... So that's why I said, if you're buying anything at this period, especially meat, buy from trusted sources. Just like we were discussing when we had the diphtheria issues. You should get your beverages or whatever you're eating at this period. I know what we are passing through in Nigeria is enough not to add disease to it again. So if that's the only thing we can do for ourselves, let's try as much as possible to put in all our effort to make sure that we get these things from trusted places that we know and we trust the person that is selling to us. I know we can't be 100% safe or 100% trusting, but let's do our part. But these things can. The dead animal does not mean that. That's why I said in our part of the world, we don't think safety, we think more of profit rather than safety. Even a man, even before he knows that this animal is sick, the next thing he does is kills it. That before it die, let me kill it first. Thinking he has done anything, he has not done anything good. Because he doesn't even know the most reasonable thing and the wise thing to do is to know why
this animal is sick.
Why this animal is actually sick. Call a veterinary doctor to actually know what is wrong with the animal. Not just kill the animal and then consume it for either for personal use or for sale. It's not healthy because you don't know why the animal. It might just be a normal flu, it might just be a normal disease, but it can also be a contagious disease that you don't know about. And you can't test these things. You can't see these. The symptoms cannot tell you what the disease is except it's well properly tested in a lab. So that's why we need to be very careful and educate most of our people that deal in meat business at this period. You know, as much as you're thinking of profits or what you're going to lose, and that is where the government too needs to come in. Because in advanced countries, when these things happen and a farmer runs at a loss because of these things, there are always compensations to the farmer. Because it's not a man-made, it's not caused by the person.
Of course.
But because of the safety of the people, the government comes in, and then so you see the farmer gingered or is encouraged to actually come forward when these things happen. This one now we are seeing is just because of the rate at which the thing happened. I'm sure maybe it's just somebody that just felt, let me just turn it, let me just make it a post, or not really looking at it from the health angle.
Of course.
The person was just looking at, I don't lose.
8 animals.
The animals have lost. I'm sure that's where the person is coming from. That's the angle the person is coming from. Not necessarily from the health angle. Before further testing went on and then they were able to detect that it's not just a man-made. There might even be other places.
All the way from Ghana straight to, Niger State. Yeah. So that means there must have been other traces of where this...
That's what I'm saying. It might have happened somewhere else. But the person will attribute it to something else. True. Maybe my neighbor, my enemies, they're the one that is killing my livestock. They don't want to, you know our part of the world we think.
Of course.
So it might have happened somewhere else.
True.
This one is just because it's close. I'm sure it's because it's close to the capital.
Of course.
And then maybe the persons that were able to reach that environment or people in that environment were a little bit more enlightened or more educated.
Of course.
And that's why they were able to, okay, let's call veterinary doctor. This loss is a little bit too much for something. Maybe it has not happened before. Why is this animal dying at this rate? Let's check. And then the symptoms they notice, some of them might not even get to that stage of using blood.
True.
It might just be the flu. And then they die. But they're already carriers.
Absolutely.
And the next thing the farmer will do is, let me find someone. I've been on the road sometimes and you see animals during transportation, they die. And because I was passing through, I think I was going to Lagos or Ibadan that time. And we met a truckload of cows on the road. Some of them had died. We don't know, maybe it's from stress. We don't know, maybe it's disease condition. But the owner of the truck was actually looking for who to buy them at a very cheap rate. Because he doesn't want to lose totally.
True. And people are going to buy.
People were buying. People were even gathering money. Let's buy one and share. You understand? So
Honestly,
not knowing what the source or what the cause of the
happened?
death of these cows. So that's why I said in our part of the world, what we think is profit, we don't think safety. And I can't say we blame them, but at the same time, we are still responsible for ourselves.
But honestly, the situation of the country is hard enough
It's hard
for us
enough.
to add
That's why I
diseases
said
to our
in
problems.
advanced countries, the government comes in, creates palliative for these people. Okay, your cow, you lost 10 cows due to this disease condition. Can we offer you palliatives to subsidize the rate at which, even if you're not going to buy them at your cost price, maybe you lose 10% of your profits, or you lose, the farmer is knowing he's not losing totally.
True, very true.
And at the same time, he's protecting other people and protecting himself too and his family members out there. But in Nigeria, you're on your own. And that is why I say a lot of persons take the drastic measures to curb and save profits whichever way they can, which is not safe in the end for all of us. Okay,
I have another question for you, but let's go on a quick break. When we return, we'll continue the discussion. All right, viewers, I'm sure you're enjoying this conversation on Anthrax. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back, viewers. We're still discussing Anthrax with pharmacist Tolulope Rotimi Alamojin. You're welcome once again.
Thank you.
Before we went on the break, I was overwhelmed because of the ways that we can actually contract this anthrax, especially when we go to the marketplace and we touch the meat and all of that. But the question I want to ask is how long does it take for anthrax to infect an animal before it begins to show symptoms or before it becomes fatal?
Okay, basically it depends on the site of infection.
Okay.
Like I said, we have 4 types.
Okay,
so
depends on the type.
depends on the site of it, and those 4 types are dependent on, they are classified based on the site of their infection, where they affect in human and in animals.
Okay.
The one that affects the skin, the one that affects the digestive system, the one that affects the respiratory tract, and the one that you get through injection that goes straight to your bloodstream and all. So it depends on, but it can be as quick as 1 day. You can start seeing the symptoms, and can stay as long as 2 months.
Wow.
Yes. So now an animal can be a carrier for as high as 2 months. And within that 2 months, you have killed the animal, you have bought it, you have killed the animal, you have ingested it. So that's why I said it's a little bit tricky.
Okay.
So in advanced countries, what they do when these things come out is make sure that people that are prone, or animals that are prone to these disease conditions, are actually vaccinated. You vaccinate all of them, and then it helps to reduce or basically fight this disease condition in these animals and also in humans. So that is the only solution, apart from other treatments that are use of antibiotics and the rest that we'll still talk about later. But basically, that is the lag period, that how quick it can be and how delayed the symptoms, we can start seeing the symptoms can be.
Okay, so does this apply to humans too?
Yes, it applies to humans too.
Wow. So it can be fatal in the space of a day?
Yes.
Or even in 2 months?
Yes. Imagine, like I said, someone taking heroin and is injecting the spore of this anthrax into his bloodstream. You can imagine how fatal it can be. Within a space of few hours, the person can start experiencing these symptoms. The person can start, because you are injecting a whole load of bacterial load into your bloodstream. And this bacterial load is something that can affect your lungs, that can affect your respiratory tract. It can be as fatal as that. And then it can also be as slow as something that affects your digestive system. That you start stooling, you think it's jelly, you're fine.
Lately, it's been rampant.
You get,
people
you
just
think
stool and
it's
they'll think it's
diarrhea
excess
and
sugar.
the rest. You just take antibiotics. Yes, and one of the treatments, and funny enough, one of the treatments of this anthrax disease is use of antibiotics. So a person can actually have anthrax
Is it that simple?
That's one of the, yes. It's a bacterial infection, so you can use antibiotics to treat it. That's one of the treatment. But the best way to treat it is if found early enough. If
found early. Now, how do we, first of all, how do we, what step are we supposed to take for discovery of anthrax?
The only discovery is to go to the lab and do a test. Apart from the symptoms that you're experiencing.
Okay, do you mean that you can just walk into a laboratory now and tell them I want to take a test for anthrax?
Yes, you can. I don't know the labs that are doing that.
Okay.
But I can tell you especially with this, most of these our government hospitals will be running the test. So you can, if you notice symptoms, that if you go to the hospital, definitely you have to see a doctor. You can't just go to the lab and say you want to run a test. So you have to see a doctor, explain the symptoms you're having. And with this outbreak, I'm sure every doctor and every healthcare professional is already abreast with it. So they are already prepared with the knowledge that people will start coming to the hospital with some symptoms that are similar to this. So if the doctor suspects that it might be anthrax disease that this person has contacted, he will send the person to the lab or the appropriate lab for the test to be carried out to confirm if it is or not for this disease condition. So you can't really tell if it's anthrax because, like I said, apart from the skin one that you can easily from the symptoms, from what you're seeing physically, you can easily deduce that maybe this is at least some extent 60 to 70% that this might be anthrax. Other symptoms are similar to other things. Just like I said, you might even think it's diphtheria because the symptoms are similar. If you're the one that affects the respiratory tract, it's almost similar, affects your lungs, affects your breathing, sore throats, and the rest.
You know, it's worrisome that we're beginning to have these diseases stem up from time to time. COVID, I'm not even sure we're done with that because a lot of us are looking forward to the post-COVID era, and then diphtheria came. In fact, before then, we had other kinds of COVID and, you know, sub-COVIDs that came. And diphtheria, and now anthrax. Is it that we're doing something wrong that is making us prone to some of these diseases?
Yes, I would say we are doing something wrong, and I also say we're not doing something wrong.
Okay.
We're doing something wrong in the sense that vaccines are not properly taken in this part of our world. We don't take them seriously. Oh. We don't. These things have been eradicated in advanced countries long, long ago. It doesn't happen. The last time it happened in the US was in 2001, and that was even bioterrorism. It was all these our Al-Qaeda people that actually converted this anthrax disease and spread it out as a means of killing people. And it actually killed a number of persons then, but they were able to detect it on time and then curb the spread of it, the bioterrorism that they were trying to do then. So these things can be controlled. These things can actually be controlled if proper vaccines have been taken when they're supposed to be taken. Ask how many of our people that are rearing cows now, how many of these, what do they even know what the vaccines are?
Oh, that's true.
They don't.
So wait, let me get something straight. Are you trying to say that there are vaccines for goats, cattle?
There are vaccines, yes.
Oh, really?
Veterinary doctors, if you go to veterinary doctors, they properly vaccinate these things. You vaccinate your dog.
Of course.
So, same thing. Oh. You can vaccinate your animals for these things. Same thing with the persons that are managing these animals. But now you see everybody talk about it and everybody keep quiet. The proper steps to be taken, nobody will take them.
Would you really blame them? Because I think I've heard some persons say, I don't want agric chicken, for an example, because they've injected them with different things. I prefer the local ones that are bred locally and there's nothing, they've not given them any medicine, they've not given them anything. So, you know, in that kind of case, I don't think it will encourage even those that are rearing livestock to actually go for vaccinations all the time, because people will just feel like they've injected them and that's why they're big, that's why they're this, that's why they're that. It's not knowing that it's for our own health.
It's about knowledge, one, and about psychology, two. Now, knowledge in the sense that there's a difference in someone injecting an animal to give it faster growth or to give it, to make it more plumpy or to make it bigger, and treating an animal. They are two different things.
Okay.
The injection you give to an animal to make it bigger to make it fatter, to make it more plumpy, or to make it more profitable when you want to sell. Yes, it might have some of these things that you're talking about, but when it comes to treating an animal, it's just like I want to get married, or you want to get married now, and you say because you have taken antibiotics, or someone tells me he or she is a virgin, and then I say no, you cannot be a virgin. You have taken antibiotics, you have taken injections, you have done this because something has pierced your skin. You're no longer a virgin. It doesn't add up.
Of course.
Yeah, two different things. That I'm taking care of my health does not mean it has changed anything about my anatomy or my physiology or who I am. Same thing applies to these animals. That an animal is sick, it's normal process of life. An animal can be sick. An animal can contact anything at any point in time. It happens. So it's not a yardstick. As I said, it's about psychology.
Sure.
Yes, we in our part of the world, it's about knowledge too. A lot of us, we mix these things up. We don't know the difference between, and it's about the level of education and level of knowledge we have in our part of the world. We don't know the difference between using a preservative on livestock, or that's animals that you want to sell or that you want to refrigerate, using a preservative on them so that they can last longer for sale, or using giving your animals injections to make them bigger, and then treating an animal. There are three different things.
Of course.
And three different chemical compounds you are going to use, three different type of injections you are going to use, three different things the three of them are going to do in the system of these animals. So the way they react in the system of these animals are totally different, and what they do are totally different. So you can't compare. But in our part of the world, we are easy to generalize. Just like someone says is from the north, the first thing that comes to anybody's head in this country is Hausa. But we know we have different type of people from the north, not just only Hausas. Hausa is like a general listing. You understand? So that's the way it is. Like, as I'm from Kogi State now, the first thing everybody tells me is you're a northerner, or you are Hausa. But there are Yorubas in Kogi State.
Of course.
So we are easy to generalize things in our part of the world, which comes to that level of education and level of exposure. So I think we need to do more enlightenment about these things, getting people, veterinary doctors, getting proper persons that are well educated in these lines of discussions to actually educate people more about the differences in these things, to change, because a lot of wrong perceptions we have is part of what is actually affecting. Like I said, animal is dying, and the next thing is they will tell you kill it first before you die. Does it make any difference that an animal dies and you eat it? Even if there's nothing wrong with the animal dies and you eat it, and the animal, you actually put a knife to it before he dies. Is he going to die either way? You know,
people have different probably religious
beliefs. Yes, religious belief comes with it too.
You can't eat dead animals.
No, it doesn't really. It's just psychology. It doesn't really change anything. The animal still died. So it's just psychology.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just psychology, because the animal still died. For the fact that you put a knife to his neck and the animal is already dying, it's not like the animal is healthy and you chose to kill it. The animal is already dying, and then you chose to kill it first before he dies. It doesn't change anything. Sure. It's just psychology. You understand? So these things are, I think a lot of more enlightenment and education needs to go on, so that people will understand the differences between these things and know what they need to do at the right time. Okay.
From the insights you gave, from the example you gave, talking about other climes as of 2001, that means anthrax is not a new disease.
No, it's not.
And the federal government is making plans to actually vaccinate all animals. So is there a specific vaccine for anthrax?
Yeah, there's a specific vaccine. I think Biotrax is and the vaccine for, that one is for the one for humans. I can't remember the one for animals now. I don't know if it's the same one for animals, but I know they have their own vaccine too, which they give to them for vaccination. So I think it will go a long way if the government can actually take it upon themselves to vaccinate these animals. But this is where we have issues again in this country. Data.
How many people? Data. I agree.
How do we know how many animals have already been vaccinated? How many of the? I was coming when I was driving down. I saw a Fulani man putting his cows, directing his cows to pass the main road. Do you know where he stays? Do you know his pen? Do you know how many cows he has? Data.
What about the stray ones?
The stray ones, data. In advanced countries, they have ranches. They know where a number of animals in this ranch. They know how many number of, if you as a ranch owner, as a cow owner, you are registered with the government. You register everything that you have. So it's easy for the government to actually trace these animals. If there's an issue, they know where the animal is coming from. They know how to retrace them. They know how to recall them if need be. But in our part of the world, how do we do that? So it becomes a burden. It becomes very difficult to actually vaccinate all animals. Yes, it's easy to say, but how do you track these animals and vaccinate them?
True.
Because we don't have data for it. We don't have data. Can we even tell how many animals are in this country at this point in time? We don't know.
It's an impossible situation.
At this point, it's very impossible to even say. You just guess. But you can't really put a finger or a number to it, accurate number to it, because of data. And that is why I just hope in the nearest future, I think we are doing better now in the areas of data, really in our health sector. We're trying to gather more data. A lot of us are going into data analysis, going into gathering of data as a full-time job now. And I think it's paying off. And I think in the nearest future, things will definitely get better because we'll be able to gather more data. And with data, that's how you can make proper provisions for things. That's how you can make effective decisions on, like we were saying now. Some people, I was watching TV some days and we were arguing about the number of people that are below, that are in poverty, these things. Someone called and said, you can't tell. You can't really tell.
Because you probably haven't been to some slums. True.
What's the data? You don't, what data are you, or based on what are you making your assumptions that, okay, people are still living in the middle class? Me and you are only making assumptions based on we can see our neighbor suffering. Yeah, it was eating 3 square meal before. Now it's eating 2 square meal, or it's only eating only 1 meal a day. We are only talking based on assumptions.
Of course. We
are not really talking based on data. And without data, you can't really make informed decisions. So it might be a little bit difficult. And yes, I know there is a giant step for the government to actually say they want to vaccinate all animals. It's good and it's needed, it's expected, especially in this period that we already know that there's an outbreak in neighboring countries. It has even come to us already. It's good. As they're vaccinating the animals, also vaccinate the persons that are actually close or prone living in their environment. So they are also prone to catch this disease. It's very good. If they can, at least let them do the one they can do. It's better than none.
Yes, of course, have read is better than none. But at this point now, how do you think we can actually, what are the preventive measures we can put in place, like the ordinary citizen, the viewers at home? What measures can we put in place, to stop the spread or to curb it of this anthrax?
Like I said, one of the ways we can actually curb the spread is eating properly cooked meals. Now, most of these bacteria.
Because you mentioned eating properly cooked meals. I think I once there's a report as well that the federal government is warning citizens to ensure that they stay away from bomo, stay away from bush meat and roasted meat. But some people believe that if we have cooked it very well, everything is dead.
Yeah. Now, cooked very well, everything is dead is relative.
Okay.
Everything is dead in the sense that if the bacteria that is found in those animals at that particular time, if it's infected at all, is not thermolabile. Thermolabile organisms are organisms that can kill.
Okay.
There are some organisms that it cannot kill.
Okay.
You understand? So this anthrax is one of them that it can actually kill. So that's why we talk about eating properly cooked meals. Now the government is actually advising persons not to eat all these smoked or roasted, in the sense that that's why I said, if you listen to me very well, I kept on repeating trusted sources.
Yes, you did.
Now, if you're eating roasted, even roasted meat, sometimes you eat roasted yam. You open it and you start eating, and you notice that the roasting did not get
inside very well.
The outside is roasted, but the inside is not properly done yet.
Yes, of course.
It can happen to meat too. when you eat roasted meat, any of these roasted animals or roasted meat.
Wait, sorry to cut you. Can fish actually contract anthrax? Because I'm asking this because a lot of people eat barbecue fish, and I'm sure they're as guilty as.
No, this anthrax is actually an animal disease,
Okay.
not a fish disease. So
Okay.
there's not any reported cases of fish carrying it.
Okay.
It's basically from animals to man. Basically.
I needed to clarify that.
Yeah. So basically, I think fish eaters are safe for now.
Okay.
Depending where we hear anything that affects that.
Until we hear. Okay.
So
I thought we should rule out the possibility so that our minds can be at rest.
Yeah,
because the description you were giving just now of that roasted meat can so much apply to
fish too.
fish.
Yes, it can. It can.
That's how I'm beginning.
It comes everything has its own plus and minus. That's life. Fish has its own disease they carry too. So if you don't, it's just that. Yes, some of them might be something that our immune system is fighting at the moment, and it's not an outbreak yet. It's not something that we need to be concerned about. That's why nobody's talking about it. There are people that eat fish and they come down with running stomach.
True.
Yes, because it's not properly cooked or it's not properly roasted the way it should. Or the beverages, you know how they garnish barbecue now, put cabbage, put this thing. It might even be from the cabbage itself, not even from the fish. You understand? So these things happen.
Okay.
Like I said, we can't be 100% safe now, especially in this world that we are living in. There are, like I said last time we were talking about diphtheria, there are microorganisms everywhere. As we are talking right now from our mouths that we're discussing and talking, there are microorganisms. So that we call them organisms that they cannot cause us any harm. You know, that's why we are safe. It's relative.
Of course.
We see ourselves as safe because the organisms we are finding around us, they are not, because they can't cause us any harm, or our immune system can, something our immune system can handle.
Fight, okay.
You get so. But for this particular anthrax we're talking about, one of the easiest sources to get it from is on not properly cooked meat.
Okay.
So I will encourage anyone that is buying meat, if you're not too sure, I know you might start saying, some people will start saying, when you overcook a meat, you have cooked all the ingredients out, or you have cooked. It's better to
when you pour the first water out, you have poured the sweetness.
It's better you pour the sweetness out than contact an outbreak disease. Okay. It's better. So I will encourage us, properly cook your meat. If you have any reasons to eat suya, or you have any reasons to eat barbecue meat, or any meat that has to do with roasting and all that, make sure it is from a trusted source, that you know this person takes his or her time to actually make or prepare these meals. Sometimes you go and buy a restaurant, you buy a meat, you'll be eating the meat for the next 2 hours. You never be chop and finish, because the meat is so strong. I know they say one cow, whether male or female, one used to be stronger than the other, but still there's a way you cook it and it will still be soft.
Of course.
If you take your time and cook it, it will be soft enough to eat. It's not stone.
Of course.
So you have to make sure that we get these things from trusted sources, buy them from trusted sources. When you are going to if you are people that go to the abattoir, make sure these abattoirs are places where people they take health conditions. I think in Abuja there are some. There was a time they were trying to regulate the abattoirs at the time, make them a little bit more serene, not see them as dirty as they used to be. Sometimes if you go to some abattoir, you will not be able to eat for the next 7 days because the way the place is so dirty, the way the place is so unkept, you wonder how people even do business in such environments. These things are big things that do not happen you go to abattoir in advanced countries, you want to sleep there safe. Because the place is so clean and so neat. You see them in movies now. We have not traveled there, but we have seen them in movies. See where the abattoirs are so clean and neat. Everything properly taken care of, where they wash, where they clean, where they eat, where they kill it, where they do, where they passes through a lot of scrutiny and screening before it even gets to the final consumer. But now, part of the world, we really don't care about those things. So we need to take proper care of these things. So assume as individuals, first thing we need to do is you make sure you're getting these things from trusted sources. Then if you are in the class of persons that are susceptible to these things, maybe you have a low immune system, there are those that have compromised immune system now, maybe due to some other disease conditions, maybe HIV and AIDS, asthma, and the rest, people that have underlying disease conditions. I would strongly advise, if you can make yourself available to get these vaccines, it will go a long way. because, like I said, we can't be 100%
Oh, this
safe.
Biotrax vaccine you mentioned is also available for people to take at any time?
Yeah, it's available.
Oh,
You can get them from government hospitals.
Oh, okay.
They are readily available. Like the government is trying, I think why the government is talking about it more is to make it more available in mass.
Oh.
Because of the outbreak. You know, when there's an outbreak, there are more people infected with these disease conditions, both diphtheria and the rest. But it's not like they are not new things. Like we said, there are disease conditions that have been happening over time. And once there's an outbreak, the first time, people, just like COVID vaccine now, by the time it will happen the next time, or a more serious one will happen the next time, there are already vaccines.
True.
It's just that if you have not taken it, you understand. So same way, it has happened before. There are vaccines for them. It's us that have not been taking it.
Okay.
So it's for us to make ourselves available, the government to make it available for people to actually take these vaccines. So
Okay.
I think it's readily for the government to be saying they trying to vaccinate people and the animals. Definitely it's available. So just for us to make ourselves available. Like I said, people that are having compromised immune system, I would strongly advise you get them, or you are in that sphere of work, deal with animals day in, day out. I would strongly advise, especially for people that I would also want to encourage persons that are closer to the grassroots, especially people that can speak local dialects.
Yes.
To try and take it upon themselves to social organizations, to take it upon themselves to educate and enlighten some of these cattle rearers or goat rearers or sheep rearers to actually be more, to take it upon themselves to make sure these things are vaccinated, and then themselves are properly vaccinated too.
All right. In rounding up now, I remember you wanted to mention a treatment option.
Yeah.
So I wanted you to mention it quickly before we round up.
Okay. Basically, like I said, the treatment option is either you get vaccinated or it's being treated with antibiotics.
Okay.
There are antibiotics that are out there, readily available antibiotics to treat this. So it's not really, like I said, treat in the sense that if it is detected early enough, it can be taken care of with antibiotics. So that's why I said I encourage, once you are seeing symptoms that are persistent or coming up over and over again, I will encourage you to go to the hospital, because like I said, you can be having upper respiratory tract infections, and you're using antibiotics, but you notice that the infection, you will feel better for a while, and then it will come back up because you're using the wrong antibiotics for the wrong reasons, for the wrong disease. So you would feel better. Not like the antibiotic is not working.
The temporary thing.
Temporary to come back. That's how antibiotics. So you have to use the right antibiotics for the right disease condition. So there are antibiotics that are suited for upper respiratory infections. So if you go to the hospital, they properly test and they confirm that it's anthrax you're having, there are antibiotics they recommend for you. And these antibiotics, you take it up to almost 60 days. So it's not a joke treatment. You take it as long as taking medication for as long as 2 months. Wow. 60 days for the complete treatment to be done. So like I said, there are treatments for it apart from the vaccine to take it. Also, animals too can also be treated for these things.
All right. Thank you so much, Pharmacist Rotimi Alamojin. We really appreciate you for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, viewers, I'm sure you've learned a lot, and I'm sure you're readily taking the necessary precaution. That's all we'll draw the curtain on today's episode of Healthy Living. I'll see you again next week. I am Olamide Alhassan. Bye for now.